Breaking news flashed across television screens in Islamabad just after dawn. US-Iran talks deadlocked. No agreement, screamed the tickers. And honestly, the city's normal hum was replaced by this tense, restless silence. Journalists scrambled outside the Serena Hotel, where the marathon negotiations had unfolded. Within minutes, social media was just flooded with updates, rumors, and speculation about what had gone wrong in the shadow of Pakistan's diplomatic corridors. Local and international reporters jostled for position, broadcasting updates to audiences from Washington to Tehran. Every camera turned to the hotel's entrance, capturing the closed faces of diplomats as they emerged, exhausted and unsmiling. For hours, the world had watched and waited, hoping for a breakthrough that never came. Instead, dawn brought only disappointment and a wave of uncertainty. As the sun rose, it became clear that this was not just another failed negotiation. The stakes had been high, and the tension still lingered in the sticky Islamabad air. Markets hesitated, and leaders in neighboring capitals braced themselves for the fallout. US Vice President JD Vance broke the silence, announcing no agreement had been reached with Iran. Our positions remain far apart. The door remains open, but tonight, no deal was made. Hopes of many diplomats evaporated instantly. Security teams hustled Vance to the airport, his departure swift and purposeful. The American flag fluttered in the early morning breeze, a symbol of intent and disappointment. The collapse was sudden, but its impact would be felt for weeks to come. The talks began with optimism. Delegates arrived early, prepared for a long haul. The Pakistani hosts left nothing to chance. Security was tight, every detail planned. But as hours dragged on, the mood soured. Tension filled the breakout rooms. By midnight, coffee kept exhausted negotiators awake. In the end, there were only weary handshakes and a heavy silence. From the start, the American delegation had been clear. The United States wanted ironclad commitments from Iran, no nuclear weapons ever. These demands went beyond previous agreements. Washington insisted on strict verification measures and unannounced inspections. "We cannot accept ambiguity," said a US negotiator. "Our security, and the world's, depends on transparency." But nuclear issues were just the beginning. The United States wanted Iran to commit to long-term limits on uranium enrichment. The Americans also pressed for rigid security guarantees, including a halt to missile development and support for militant groups in the region. In exchange, they offered gradual sanctions relief, but only if Iran complied with every condition. This uncompromising stance reflected political pressures back home. The Biden administration, wary of criticism from Congress and allies, refused to budge on key points. "We learned the hard way that trust must be earned and verified," said Vice President Vance. For Iran, these demands felt like an ultimatum, not a negotiation. The Americans argued it was necessary. The Iranians called it excessive. The gulf between the two sides widened with every hour that passed. Iran's delegation arrived determined not to be bullied. Foreign Minister Amir Abdollahian declared, "We will not accept demands that undermine our sovereignty and dignity." Sanctions relief was Iran's top priority, insisting US-led sanctions had crippled their economy. "We do not negotiate with a gun to our head," said one delegate. Missile development was another red line. Iran saw its missiles as vital for defense. As talks broke down, Iran blamed US intransigence and demanded sanctions relief first. Pakistan's role as mediator was both important and delicate. Islamabad had worked for months to get both sides to the table. The government hoped to boost its image as a regional peacemaker. Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif welcomed the delegations personally, calling for courage and wisdom to find common ground. Pakistan's foreign ministry organized the talks, providing security, translators, and round-the-clock logistical support. Diplomats praised Pakistan's efforts. "They gave us the best chance possible," said a US official. Iranian representatives agreed, noting the hospitality and fairness of their hosts. Behind the scenes, Pakistani mediators shuttled between rooms. They offered creative solutions, suggested compromises, and even mediated personal disputes between delegates. But in the end, the differences were just too wide for even the most skilled diplomats to bridge. When the talks collapsed, Pakistan's officials expressed regret, but also urged both sides to keep talking. "We have not failed," said one Pakistani diplomat. "We have simply not succeeded, yet." The failure of the Islamabad talks leaves many questions unanswered. The main issues, nuclear restrictions, sanctions relief, and regional security, remain unresolved. Both sides left blaming the other, their statements filled with frustration and thinly veiled threats. Yet, some diplomats hinted at hope. "We are disappointed, not defeated," said a US official. For now, the ceasefire in the region holds. But it is fragile. Border tensions simmer, and militias test the limits of peace every day. Allies and rivals alike are watching closely, wondering if another round of talks will be possible, or even useful. Markets are jittery, and ordinary people on both sides fear the return of violence or economic hardship. As the dust settles, one thing is clear. This story is far from over. Pakistan has offered to host further meetings, but both the United States and Iran remain non-committal. The world waits, hoping that leaders will find a way forward before old hostilities flare up again. No deal was reached, but the need for dialogue remains. The future is uncertain, and the stakes could not be higher.